up, wake up, wake up.
From
y'all.
Jerusalem, Israel, this is From the Midwest to the Middle East, the podcast that explores everything new in U.S. and Israeli economy. Here's your host, Philip Stein.
Normally, when I pick up the phone and call attorney Yoav Kremer, it's to talk about wills, trusts, taxes. But today I'm going to talk to him about a park that exists right in Tel Aviv, a park that is pure nature, a place to escape from all the craziness we sometimes live in on a day-by-day basis. I think you're going to find this really interesting. Enjoy.
This episode is brought to you by Philip Stein and Associates, the largest U.S. CPA firm in Israel, providing U.S. tax services to Israelis, Americans, corporations, startups, and anyone else needing them.
Hi, everybody. Today, I'm really excited to have a guest, someone that I'm very friendly with, I've worked with, but we're going to talk about something that he does, let's say his other job. Today, I have advocate Yoav Kremer, who is known as a leading tax and private client practitioner with vast experience in business and second-generation planning, trust, wills, probates, taxation, international estates, etc. But today we're going to talk about his role as one of Israel's leading environmental activists. Welcome, Yoav.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me, Philip.
It's really a pleasure, and it's really something that I think my listeners are going to learn about and discover a new place that they probably never knew about, which may, for some, have been right around the corner. Okay, so let me start as I like to start from my own perspective. Believe it or not, when I was growing up in the south side of Chicago long ago, there were little undeveloped parcels of land along several busy commercial streets. We kids called those plots prairies, probably after the great prairies of the Midwest in the United States. These were areas that had never been built upon or planted. They were just raw areas of nature with their own unique flora, but they were very small, but we played in them year round. And to us, they were actually more attractive than the parks that had been planned or built for us to play in. I thought of those so-called quote unquote prairies when I learned about your Glilot Ecopark recently from you, which I assume most of my listeners have never heard about. So I'm going to let you share, I think, a project that you're very proud of about this giant quote unquote prairie in the confines of Tel Aviv.
Thank you very much indeed, Philip. So yes, so I agree with you. Basically, we are dependent on the natural environment. When the natural environment thrives, we thrive, okay? There's no unicorn in the world that can provide us what the natural environment provides us, including oxygen, including the capture of CO2 and carbons, including biodiversity, including natural habitats where we can spend time and they provide us as a anti-stress environment, etc. Now, I have a lot of criticism sometimes against the environmental movement in the world because I think it too much focuses on carbon and on fossil fuels, whereas we're losing millions and millions and millions of acres of natural habitats, and these natural habitats provide us the minimum needs we need to live. The most basic things we need to live, including oxygen, CO2 capture, reduction of temperature, shade, etc. And what's also unique in these natural spaces and natural lands, that they are also a climate change solution because they capture water, they reduce temperature, and it's a mixture between a win and a win. So speaking about Glilot, so north to Ramat Aviv, where I live, there's a huge area in the size of 2,000 dunams, which is an amazing place, and it was not allowed for construction for many, many years because of there was a refinery and an oil storage facility around it. So nobody can live around it for many, many years until the place was demolished and became a huge parking lot. Afterwards, the government of Israel, which basically owns 91% of the land in Israel, started a zoning and planning program in order to build their 12,500 residential units and many other more commercial, office, hotel, leisure, and transportation systems. Now, the place is amazing, okay? It's housed to 300 types of plants in the entire state of Israel, which has a very big biodiversity. There are 2,000 types of species of plants, meaning about 20% are at the Glilot junction, believe it or not. There are mammals, reptiles, butterflies, birds. There's a stream, there's a river, there's a archaeological site there. Amazing, amazing space. One of the most unique in Israel. And what was very puzzling and disturbing to me is that in the initial zoning and planning plans that they presented, they basically wanted to create an artificial park over the parking lot and destroy the surrounding areas. Okay. Now, when I mean artificial, you need to understand, I'm going to the beginning of this conversation. Natural space.
Let me interrupt for 1 second.
Sure.
One, I'd like you to explain just to my listeners who they are, okay? But just to go back, you said north of Ramat Aviv. Could you give me the other boundaries just so people know? Or
yes, sure. So it's 2,000 dunums locked between route number 5 in the north, Ayalon Freeway in the east, Namir Tel Aviv Haifa Road in the west, and Ramat Aviv Gimel in the south.
Got it. Thank you.
So like 80% of working people in Israel go by this area, I'd say like once a week.
All right. So now the they. Who was the they that came up
So
with
they is it's the government of Israel via its long arm Rashut Mekarkei Israel, the Israeli Land Authority. Israeli Land Authority basically owns 90% of Israel's land. Now, my critique against the Land Authority is that I think that, and we'll speak about it later perhaps, that I'm not sure that they are aligned with the interests of the state of Israel. I'll explain why. They have moved to under the Ministry of Finance many years ago, and they have become a tool of the government to create money. Okay, so basically change the zoning and planning, create on paper potential huge amounts of residential units, and sell it to contractors in very, very high bids and receive money to the government. Now, the trouble is that it's on our account, it's on our open spaces, on our agricultural spaces, and perhaps the interest of the state of Israel as a state is perhaps to increase TAMA projects, okay, to strengthen the cities, to find more creative way within the cities to increase the residential units, and have also a win-win from a transportation, zoning, and planning point of view, and also save as much as possible the open areas, the nature that we're trying to save. Okay, so going back to the program, I want to explain. Park Hayalkon is not nature. Okay, people need to understand that and digest that. That's planted grass. Everything that is fertilized, everything that is planted, everything that we human beings shape, okay, for our benefit. It's a nice park. It's a pleasant place to be in. There's no cars, there's no pollution, but it's not nature. Nature is as it is, right? It's messy. It's diverse. It's during summer, God forbid, it's dry, it's brown, okay? There's mosquitoes, there's snakes, but it's untouched. As nature is more messy and more wild, it provides us much, much better advantages. It's very important to understand that. So I told the government, this is an absurd what you're doing. I'm not trying to reduce the number of residential units because I know it will be an impossible mission, and I'm a very practical, business-oriented person. But I think you can change the plan. And I think the park is already ready. And I pointed out an area of the southeast corner of this entire 2,000 dunam compound, and I told them this 200 dunam out of 2,000 should stay as it is, as an ecological park for the benefit and to the future of the state of Israel, the population of Gush Dan area, and the new neighborhood you're going to construct. Just change the zoning and planning. You will even save money. You don't need to create a park. It's already ready. So I initiated a campaign. The campaign has 3 legs: community, environment, and zoning and planning. I knew that I need to attract the community. I need to show people how amazing this place is, that they can fall in love with. And what I did is a photo contest at the community center at my neighborhood. And I was amazed by the photos that people went and took. And people fell in love in this place. And now there's 4 homeschooling programs at this place. There's a nature kindergarten of Tel Aviv municipality at this place. Tel Aviv municipality is completely behind us and supporting us. And we also build a wetlands park, okay? Because the nature in Israel and in the world is in such a problem that you don't only need to protect it, you need to restore it. And there's a term, Philip, named rewilding. Okay.
Okay.
To rewild the earth, okay, to make it wild again, to go to an area and restore the historic natural habitat that was there. So we did that with a what we call in Israel shlulit choref, basically a swamp. And you know what's funny, in the ceremony, I told Mayor Khulday, I told him that after 75 years of Zionism, we're building back the swamps. Because after 75 years, because 75 years ago, the symbol of Zionism was to make the swamps disappear, right? With the eucalyptus trees. And after 75 years, we understand now the benefits, huge benefits of swamps, huge benefits, because they reduce floods. They take water underneath the crust of the earth so we can drink it afterwards. They create a beautiful habitats, a beautiful place for the community, a drinking place for animals, and a biodiverse habitat with very unique creatures and animals. And you know what, Philip? There's also no mosquitoes in swamplands. You know why? Because there's billions of creatures in the water that eat the mosquitoes. When the nature is healthy, the system works. When the nature is healthy, the system works.
So as a naive person who's not that aware, I'm going to ask you, throw this out. When they said they were going to restore the hula, did that follow your sort of thinking, or did they do it in some?
Yeah, I think the hula was a huge historic mistake, but I think they tried to create a good solution now. With the partial flooding. But if you speak with any seasoned environmental expert in Israel, they will tell you historically it was a huge mistake. But I think the situation there now is relatively balanced between the agriculture and nature. And by the way, as long as nature is more strong, the agriculture is more strong. The bees, the predators, the balance is much more healthy. So I think hula in general terms is a good example for a good balance between man and man needs. Okay, we're not like, crazy people that don't understand the needs of human society and for food and living and cities. We want to create a balance. We want to create a good balance.
It's interesting. A few months ago, again, we're talking about Israel, but there was an article, a long article I read in the Atlantic magazine about how particularly the rich Arab states and other billionaires have been buying up land in the Serengeti in Kenya and displacing the native population, and they do it in the name of ecotourism. Okay, but in fact, they're really undermining what you're talking about, the natural system, which in the case of that included tribes and how they lived off the land and how they supported themselves. And they've really sort of wiped out the native population in terms of how they interacted with the land, and they did it in the name of ecotourism. So it's
That's interesting. That's very interesting. And back to the combat. So what we did is created a community. So now I run a Facebook group of 4,000 families from the entire state of Israel. And I was amazed and did not expect how much people will enjoy, speak, and be emotional about the environment and about trees and plants and golden jackals. And people really fell in love in this place. And we are cleaning the place. I personally clean it twice a week, and we have volunteers cleaning it on a daily basis. We did not let cars inside anymore. We put garbage cans at the entrance. We put signs. We do not allow campfires. We ask people to respect the place. We have a lot of problems with trash and with parties and with fires, but we're trying to cope with it. It's not easy to protect an area in Israel, Philip, because many people also, there are many contractors that will put their garbage in Israel's open lands. It's horrible. The damage is huge. And so we're trying to protect the place. From a zoning and planning perspective, we also took expert opinions about the importance of the place, the biodiversity of the place, and we presented an alternative plan. And remember, we did not try to reduce any residential unit, just to change the plan. And believe it or not, the district zoning and planning committee basically agreed. It's a 1 of a million shot in Israel, because it was a 20-year planning. It's a done deal usually between all these authorities, and a 1 of a million happened, and they agreed with us. They actually agreed with us. They asked the government to change the zoning and planning plan, but the Israeli Land Authority did not do that for 24 months, unfortunately. And then the entire plan was cancelled, abolished, and then resubmitted to a advanced indirect committee. They tried to overpass the recommendations of the district committee, but it didn't help them. Even that special committee agreed with us, and currently the plan was approved for submission, and 90% of the ecological park, in our view and in my dream, will be kept as is, very unique, and it's an amazing place. By the way, all of you are welcome to join and come visit, preferably during winter.
Okay, that I know it's hot now, but let me move along and allow me to zoom out for a moment.
Sure.
We Israelis, we live in a small country, and whenever there's a holiday, the media reports on the various so-called nature sites to be overwhelmed by visitors. Is there a way or a plan to expand areas designated as nature reserves, as you've done?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. So basically, you're right. We are entering a phase where we are going to duplicate ourselves. Okay, we're going to reach a population of 15 to 20 million residents within about 20 years.
Yeah, I recently heard a demographer interviewed that, God willing, on our 100th anniversary, that Israel's projected to have 15 million people, and it seems, just from water, whatever you call ecosystem, can we, this little piece of land support so many people? But go ahead.
Yeah, I agree. It's not an easy task, and I think we already feel it. We're the most growing nation in the Western world. Okay, we need to understand that. Okay, that means that any hospital, any school, any road, any shopping mall that we see now will have to duplicate itself in the next 20 years. Okay, that's a huge task. For that, by the way, we first need to change, by the way we commute. Okay, we must start with this metro system, which is crucial for the metropolitan of Gush Dan for proper commute. with respect to open spaces, it's crucial to save them. A, for our soul, and B, for our health. Okay, it's very, very crucial. Is it possible? I think so. It's very complicated. If we are creative and if we strengthen the city and we do not create new cities, okay, look at Harish. Harish is a mistake. It's isolated. It was built on a forest. Nobody has any employment there. We're stuck in traffic just to get out of the city and get back into the city. So we need to strengthen our local cities. It's possible. I mean, look around you. Every 4, 5, 6-story building, just imagine a 20-story building. I think that's a price that is worth it than just building more and more in our open lands, which are not, I mean, we do not have any more land. In addition, what's happening now is also that we need to perhaps take regular parks and agricultural lands for rewilding projects. Okay, so just and the NGO החברה להגנת הטבע is doing it now. We're taking dormant fish farms at מעגן מיכאל and at כפר רופין at the north, and creating them as wetlands of rewilding parks.
Wow.
And also, it's possible any potato field you see can become a park. So I think it's possible. It needs strategic thinking. It needs to have government attention. It needs to have priority. It needs to have budgets. But I think it's possible. It's a huge task.
I recently looked at, in the preparation for this podcast, at the JNF Karen Kayemet website, and I copied the following quote from their vision statement. Quote, to reestablish a homeland in Israel for Jewish people everywhere, where the Jews the world over collect coins in iconic JNF blue boxes, purchasing land and planting trees until ultimately their dream of a Jewish homeland was a reality. As an advocate for open natural spaces, do you think the JNF, or as they call it in Hebrew, Karen Kemet, has succeeded in their mission?
Okay, so partly yes and partly no. So I think, take for instance, a Hula project, which JNF was heavily involved with, is a huge success. It's a very nice project, very unique place. And as I said in the beginning of this podcast, it's a good example for a good balance between agriculture and biodiversity and nature. Having said that, you should be aware of there's a huge debate in Israel about the justification of planting trees. You'll be surprised.
Wow.
Not in any place. It's justified from a pure professional environmental perspective to plant a tree for a few reasons. A, sometimes the flora does not need a tree. There's a flora in Israel named Beta. Beta is like an open grassland, okay? Like many places in the desert, they don't need trees. Maybe we human beings next to our recreation areas, we want trees for shade, that's okay, but not as a general huge spread of trees. And B, for a tree to grow to a large size, if you see the carbon footprint, it's not always positive until he really, really grows, which can take 20 to 30 years. So there's a big debate about this. Wow. Also about wildfires. So I'll say yes, JNF partly so. If you see the mountains to Jerusalem, I think they did a very good job. If you see Hula, they did a good job. But if you see the more populated cities in the south, I'm not sure if we're doing a good job there. And there's some more strategic work around it.
Yeah, I think they did a big project in Yerucham with like an artificial lake and trees.
Correct.
So that may fall into that latter category. So I normally avoid politics, and I'm not asking this question from a political point of view, but Israel has a ministry called the Ministry of Environmental Protection. Is it protecting our environment?
Yeah, so first of all, I'm also not gonna answer from a political point of view, because it's not doing enough, but It has nothing to do with this government or another, just year after year after year with all governments. Okay. First of all, it has no money. There's one supervisor, okay, between Ashdod and Tel Aviv.
Wow.
One supervisor on environmental crimes between Ashdod and Tel Aviv. And there's so many environmental crimes. They're overwhelmed. They're swamped. They do not have this sufficient manpower to do that. So I think they have good intentions. I think they have good people. I think they have good professionals. But I do not think that they're doing a good enough job. I think there's much, much more needed to be done. But I think it's a matter of the government, general government of the state of Israel, to prioritize this, to prioritize dealing with environmental crimes, with pollution, with putting your garbage, your construction garbage everywhere you want, with polluting our streams and rivers and seas, with hurting animals for no reason, with hurting wildlife, with catching wildlife. There are still people in Israel that hunt. I want to explain something, Philip. It's also, I'm also a person that would like to put responsibility on us, as I think I have responsibility as part of my community to save 200 dunams and clean them and put my strategy in them. So I think also we need to think how we behave, because we humans, we need to start perhaps changing a bit, okay, the way we live our lives if we want to save our planet and its resources, okay? For instance, let's speak about hunting. Is it too much to expect that if we want to save the wildlife, which is in any case in a very problematic and stressful manner, that we stop hunting just for entertainment? Okay, and have you seen the criticism about SeaWorld?
Sure, of course.
Yeah, there's a famous photo where you see where the orca lives and the size of their garage, which is like 100 times from the tank of the orca. So is it really necessary that for pure entertainment we'll see an orca in a small tank that was took from the sea and from the ocean, where it lives freely and it's part of the environment, and it serves a purpose in the sea. The sea is a living world. Every organ of the sea made by God has a purpose, and we just took it for pure entertainment. So I think also there's a responsibility on us Israeli citizens.
I have a son-in-law who hates zoos. Okay.
Yeah, it's when you think about it. To be honest, it's a bit fucked up. You see a golden jackal, you see a hyena in captivity, like going in circles in a 10 by 10 cage room. I think it's horrible, and I think it messes up your education about animals and about wildlife. And I think we need to put a line for entertainment. And also, you know, have you ever gone to the beach? I don't think that people should lift their cigarettes. Okay.
I hear you.
We need to be more disciplined. We need to be more clean. We need to try. Philip, you came to the States. I lived in the States during the 90s. I mean, recycling was a must. I don't even know if there's enough recycling in Israel, but nobody is knowledgeable about recycling at big homes, right? I mean, we don't really recycle.
Right.
So we need to try more, also citizens, but obviously, yes, also the ministry.
So that leads me to really my final question. In other words, one, I guess it's two-part. One, how can any of my listeners get more involved in protecting the environment or expanding green spaces? In terms of where can they turn to? And also, if you could just give directions on how to get into the Glilot, your park. Okay.
Yeah, so coming to Glilot Park, I'll be very happy to take to a private or anybody that wants. The address is Yechiel Dov Dresner 3, Tel Aviv, Yafo. There's a small parking lot. It's for free, and you just walk in and be amazed from this spectacular, amazing place with views of the Golan Heights in the center of Tel Aviv. You won't believe it.
Wow.
I usually recommend to come visit between December and April. Afterwards, it's a bit more tough, perhaps coming for sunset walks or early mornings.
Okay.
With respect, how can you help? So I think everybody can help in any way possible, being a more conscious citizen for the environment is one. Volunteering.
What's the name of your Facebook group?
Kehilat Ecopark Glilot community.
Okay. Okay, so Yoav, I'm putting in my calendar to call you in late November with a good chunk of my family and some of whom you already know. Although he's told me he's been to the park several times already.
Oh, that's nice.
So that's nice. And we wish you continued success. And I hope people do follow you on Facebook and visit the park and any new endeavors that you take upon. I really appreciate your time and bringing this attention to my listeners.
Thank you very much indeed. I appreciate this.
I hope you enjoyed our podcast. Feel free to visit us at www.pstein.com or look for Philip Stein and Associates on Facebook and LinkedIn.